Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart. Today is Saturday, July 19th, 2014, and we're going to take a look at the stock market today, review the key indices like we typically do, look at the indicators and the ETFs, and then we're going to review the 6 stock trade ideas that we currently have working. Okay, so the Dow was back up 123 points on Friday. So snap back after the big downdraft on Thursday, where we had the big concern, and the jury's still out on what's going on with that whole incident with that airliner being shot down. It's pretty sad, pretty tragic. It's really, I know everyone's watching the news and seeing what's going on, and it's just hard to believe an airliner getting shot down like that, but I guess it has happened in the past, and it's just kind of a sad situation. Of course, the market's reacting to it because of the uncertainty as to what's going on, the implications with Russia, etc., and what does this mean, trade sanctions, etc., etc. So we've got this market chopping sideways. And again, I talked about this last week, where we talked about the overlapping waves, and it's not impulsive pushing to higher in a stair-stepping manner. It's continually overlapping. It overlapped down here, pushed a little bit higher to a little higher plane, then overlapping in here. So we'll see whether it continues to do that, pushes up to another plane, or whether we break down. Right now, it's when you look at the indicators on the Dow Industrials, I'm seeing nothing but divergences on all 3 of my indicators. This is relative strength index. This is set at 10. These are set at 14 days, and I believe this is, where is this, 10? Yeah, it's not giving it to me off the top of my head. So it's the demand index up in here, which factors in volume, which is why I like the demand index. I like to have that as a part of the portfolio, what I'm looking at, to see, when I'm looking at kind of confirmation to say, are all 3 of them giving me green lights? How many are giving me green? How many are red? That type of thing. And when I say that, let me just make that real clear, and then I'll move on. When I talk about a green light, I think of, if I'm trying to buy and go long, I'm thinking that the RSI I like to see it be above 50. On the upside of 50. So that's, if I see it like right in here, this close right here was 51.83. And then it, trended higher, after trading slightly below. So when I see that up here, when I see red above then that's kind of a red light, because that means things are, the selling pressure is in place. The demand index here was slightly positive. Okay, so that would be a green light. It's above 0. So those are just some of the factors I look at, and try to weigh those in with what I'm looking at when I'm looking at a trade setup. Okay, let's take a look at the S&P 500. We're really, on Thursday, came right down to this trend line from April. So starting here on April 11th, and then it hit this back in here mid-May, okay? And now we came down and touched this. So now we have 3 touches in here. So that's strengthening the aspect. Now, I'd like to see one more higher low to actually call this a pivot point, but it looks like a valid touch in here. And then you've got this trend line in here from the low back of February 5th. This is what going to be key to watch to see if this continues to push and strengthen off of this or not. And this is showing the same type of divergences. You don't have the demand index on this because there's no volume reading that I'm getting on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ, again, also bounced back a little stronger. So this is kind of interesting, the way the NASDAQ closed above the high of Thursday. And you'll see when we look at the Russell 2000, it was pretty bullish action too. So we still have the 10 above the 21. Now we're closing back above the 10 and closing above the high. So that's pretty interesting action going on. Let me look, if you draw a little trend line. Using trend lines a lot of times can be key. I mean, when I start to look at opportunities and look at trade ideas, I'm looking at trend lines a lot to see what's going on. Is it breaking a trend line? Where is support and resistance? Where's a previous high? Where has it gotten support before? So those two things, to me, support and resistance and trend lines, are pretty key things that you really want to take into consideration when you're analyzing a chart and looking for trade ideas. When you look in here at the NASDAQ, the RSI is back above 50. We still get DI minus above DI plus, and we get the demand index, which, so we've got volume reading on here. So we got the demand index positive. So right now, this looks like the NASDAQ wants to push higher. It'll be interesting to see as it break to new highs here. Russell 2000, pretty bullish day here. It wasn't a fully engulfing bull bar, but this previous body, when you look at the body of Thursday, you see this down bar. This is where it opened, okay? This was the low, this little blip in here, this little, I can't remember what you call it, but the close was the bottom of the dark bar. So because the close was below the open, it was a dark bar, dark shadow, I guess is what you'd call it. So then what does it do? The next day it opens right down here and then closes all the way up here and closes literally on the high, I believe. Let's see, high 1152.02, close 1151, almost, just fractionally off the high. But the close was above the high. But this open and the low was not below this low, so it wasn't a fully engulfing bar, but it engulfed the entire body of trading from Thursday. So pretty bullish. When you come back and see engulfing of the previous body, you see at least the next day looks like an up day, and the stronger the engulfing bar at the bottom. I've noticed this on the Russell. Like here, okay? We had a doji. It did trade all the way back down and closed here, but it started the trend. There's been several instances of this. This was an outside, what I call an outside up bar. It didn't fully engulf this bar, but the low was below this low and it closed above the high of the previous day, okay? Here was engulfed the previous day's body pretty easily in here. Wasn't a fully engulfing bar. Now here was pretty close to a fully engulfing bar at the bottom down here. And this was what, October 2011. This was after all that, big financial crisis we had with the U.S. government and, our being downgraded by S&P in the summer in this whole thing here. And then we started to try to bottom. And then we get this huge bullish bar on Russell 2000 on October 4th. So just some other examples. This could be an indication that the Russell 2000 is getting ready to at least rally back up and try to, come up here. We'll see whether or not we get the follow through. So that's the key thing on that, is getting follow through. We're not getting an extreme on bullish reading yet, but if we start to move up, I'll bet this thing gets down below 0.9 on the 10-day exponential moving average. That's not there yet. The VIX pulled back after this big spike up, and a lot of times it does that. So we'll just have to continue to watch this. I mean, we got the 10 crossing above the 21. I still got the RSI above 50, got DI plus above DI minus. High-low index, sure didn't get much of a reaction on a high-low index here on the bounce back. It wasn't much of a bounce back. We're still trading down in here. So we're not getting any reading. It's not cracking down below zero, and it's not up around 500. So again, it's just hanging there. All right, now I want to take a look at the the ETFs, 3 ETFs. Semiconductors had a pretty good sell-off on Thursday, and after this little push up in here, these little doji bar, kind of like here, and then we got the sell-off here, and a little bit of a rally back, but this is almost starting to look like some sideways action on this ETF. So home builders is continuing its sell-off. Pretty dramatic fall out of this wedge. Typically when you come out of a wedge like this, you're going to come down at least to the bottom of the wedge. So my guess is this isn't going to pause or rally till it comes down to 30, but we'll have to watch. The financial, let's see, market semiconductors. There we go. And this is going sideways. Okay, so a little bit of a, almost like a broadening type diagonal in here, but really this is just chopping sideways action. No real indication one way or the other on that. All right, so now we're going to jump into our trade ideas review. We've got 6 trade ideas that we're currently in. Best Buy is the first one. Best Buy, we got this jump up above the 10 in here. And by the way, one thing I want to mention, do I have it up? Let me get to the trade ideas page. And hopefully this will open fairly quickly. Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out that I'm doing, and I'm starting this, okay? So here's the trade ideas page, and subscribers have access to this, okay? So here's the 2 most recent trade ideas that I listed. I am starting to put a link in here where it says new trade idea. I'm putting a link, and I'm going to have a video that is an unlisted YouTube video. So when you click on this, you're getting access to that video in here, and you're the only one that can see that video. And that video is then going to talk more in specifics about this trade idea. And I'll be walking through talking about, you know, what am I saying when I say BTO, buy to open 28? You know, why do I have my stop set where I am? Why do I have my target set where it is? Why do I have an entry set where it is? So those are some things I'm going to talk about and make sure that the message that I'm talking about in the details here is very clear. So let's see. Let's go back here to Best Buy. We're talking about an entry. Actually, we entered the next day on the open, and I said, you know, I waited a few minutes to let it kind of settle down, and then we got calls in here. I probably, in 2020 hindsight, should have waited for a little better confirmation, like a break of the high and up in here on this trade. So we've kind of suffered through a little bit of a pullback, but we're actually, I think I got in around 30.15, and here we close at 30.09. So not doing too badly, but I'd like to see this start to close back above the 10 and push again. We've got the trend line here that it did break, so I'm a little concerned about that. And here we are snuggling up against a little trend line here. So I'd like to see this come off of this and push higher and at least try to close this gap up here around 35.5. So that's what we're working on Best Buy. Next one is Citrix Systems. So I've got a couple call positions and we've got a few put positions. Citrix, another one where we got a couple closes above the 10, and we got our entry up in here slightly above 64. So we've been suffering down below. It's a little pullback. Kind of came back here on Friday, but again, nothing strong and not a bullish type bar. It's a doji bar after this little pullback. So we'll see. It has broken this trend line. And the 55 has pushed above the 233-day moving average in here. The 21's above the 55. So it's like this is trying to turn. In the bigger picture, I'm still thinking this could be a head and shoulders bottom with a neckline, and that this is a pullback to a neckline, and that this could be like a little bit of a pennant formation in here. So when this broke this trend line, got the signal above the 10, you know, I was willing to try and play that. So that's the play on Citrix Systems that we're working. Green Mountain, a Keurig Green Mountain, which is Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, what I still call it. I still think we finally got an entry. We started to get a signal here, but the entry didn't come until I think it was Thursday. And then, of course, we had a little bit of a snapback on Friday, but still playing us to the downside. I think we're coming out of this wedge. I think we got an A, B, C working. And that reminds me, the other thing I'm doing is I created a new page on the website, and this is open to everyone. It's underneath the stock market education. I've got another page called Stock Charts, or Stock Charting. I can't remember exactly what I'm calling it. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting out some videos, and putting videos where I profile an individual stock. One of the stocks that I'm following and trying to do it every day if I can. Put something new out there every day and get through. And these are strictly of the stocks that I'm following for option trading. So it's just kind of a, let's take a look. I put Apple out there and I put Green Mountain Coffee Roasters out there, and taking a look at them from a broad perspective. So, this right now I think is breaking down, starting to roll over. We'll see if we continue to get more to the downside or whether it reverses on us. I mean, there's only one way to find out, and that's to take it on, take the trade. Okay, next one is Jinko Solar. Jinko, I think, is breaking down. Yeah, this is a pretty broad head and shoulders, as someone mentioned to me on StockTwits, that it seemed like a stretched out head and shoulders, and I can't argue that. It sure does seem like it's stretched out. And usually I've seen some pretty nice head and shoulders that are 6 months long, and this is a little bit longer than that. So we'll see. What I'm looking for is this to break this trend line now next. If it breaks this trend line, I think it's going to challenge down here to the neckline at least. So we'll see. And right now we're in this. I think we got in at the break of this low here because we had the moving averages crossed, and when it trended back above it, it was kind of a counter move, because here's the first thrust down, counter move, got the moving averages crossed, took the what puts on the break of the low of the high bar. What I call this is the high bar. Blow that up a little bit. So this is the highest bar, okay? And you can see how each low is higher, right? Okay, and then when I break the low of that high bar, I bought puts. And so now I am, playing the fact that this is going to continue this thrust down. And actually, I'm thinking at a minimum that this move here, this first move, is almost like an ABC zigzag, 1, 2, 3, that this would at least equal this. Okay, so that's part of my thinking too, and that happens down around here. So that's why you take, you get some of the move, you take some profits, and then you try to play the rest of the move. So the next one is Chihu 360. Chihu 360, again, we're in very similar play to Jinko Solar in terms of what it's doing and how we played it. And so now I'm looking to see, does it break this little trend line in here? I'm a little bit concerned, and I've said this before, that it looks like this might be chopping sideways, but sometimes when they chop sideways, then you get a nice sharp breakdown right out of that. So that's what we're playing on Chihu. And then last is Twitter, and Twitter has broken this trend line. And again, this was similar type action, thrust down, a little bit of counter trend rally. Now, this one was a little bit earlier in terms of the moving averages crossed. We got this, we got in here on the break of the low of the high bar in here, and it's come down. And so now the fact that it's broken this trend line, I'm looking for it to continue to come down. So we'll just have to watch and see if that will happen, and just see how the waves start to form out. Again, what's the high up here? 42.95, 42.83. So say 42.95. The low here, 36.11. So what is that? That's like 6.8 points. So if you take that from the high here, you're looking at 32 and a half, let's say. So 32 and a half, right around in here, this will equal this move down. So the second move down will equal that. So that's a possibility. I have to look to see what I've got targeting. So anyway, all right, that's the discussion for today. That's the trade ideas. So I've got some new charts I'm putting out on the stock chart page underneath Stock Market Education. And for subscribers, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe so you get email updates to Beyond the Chart, get access to the Trade Ideas page, and get the free PDF that I've got out there called the 5 Essentials, which are not my words. Those are the words of a great trader, one of the stock market wizards profiled in the original book. And it's his thoughts and perspective, and I really can't argue with them. They're great Great reads, great important information, I think, for you to understand the trading business, understand the trading world, and a lot of the psychology of trading. That is so much of it. That's why we call this Beyond the Chart. Okay, so we've got that, and then remember on the trade ideas page, we're highlighting the trade ideas. Look for the link on it so you get the unlisted video that gives you a little better insight into the trade idea and talks about it. And I'm going to try to do that on every trade idea going forward. So that's it for today. If you found that this video helped you in any way, please share it with your friends and share it on social media. Click one of the social media buttons. And remember, trading is more than bars in the chart, like I just said. So until next time, stay focused, follow your plan, and trade without fear. Have a great weekend, everyone.